So I want to talk about being a black belt. I'm not a black belt yet. In my system, a Sensutori system, I'm a high brown belt, and I'm on my way to black belt. And we got our promotions, our belt promotions a few months ago, like 2 months ago. And someone walked up to me and said, "Jay, you're almost a black belt, man. How does it feel?" And I thought about it, and I didn't have an answer for him right then and there. I just kind of was like, hands up, like, I don't know. And then I thought about it afterwards, and I said, well, I replied to him. I said, I'm still a white belt, man. That's how I look at it. Every time I get a new belt, a new year passes in this system, I consider myself a white belt. That might be different for someone else, because I try to stay learning, right? And that brings me to the point of being a black belt. I came from, before I started doing mixed martial arts, in my system, we studied judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing together. That's the system. My teacher has multiple systems under his belt, and he created that to, basically be a modern martial art, called the Sensutori system. But before that, I was a boxer. I did boxing, many years before that. And in boxing, there is no belts, so the mentality isn't to reach something, with a finality associated with it. I think in martial arts, there's, especially, for those who aren't doing it as a sport, as a potential career to compete or anything, I think they look at the black belt as the end. But in reality, the black belt is the beginning. And if you ask most martial artists, lifelong martial artists who are very serious at the craft, they will tell you that the black belt level is really the beginning of your mastery. Prior to your black belt, you're really learning all of the basics to what it is to be a martial artist. So you're really not a complete martial artist in a way until you get to a black belt level. Now I say level because being a black belt, right? This whole point. I always think it's a mentality, right? I don't think it's a rite of passage because you've got this thing holding up your pants. It's a mentality. It's the way you think. It's how you approach martial arts, how you approach self-defense, how you approach your sport. If you're constantly a learning person that's always learning, I think that is a black belt. They're always evolving, and being open-minded about things and, working on their craft. Like for instance in judo, there's many techniques that are recognized, 60 plus techniques, but a really high level black belt practitioner is probably not going to use more than 10. They'll be able to defend all of those, but they're not going to use and master more than 10 because that's their mastery. We all have different, specializations when it comes to our size and strength and skill and, mentality, how we approach a competition, for instance. And so certain things you might be more adept to doing, and you will master that, And in boxing, right, I try to master the jab. The jab is, to me, the most important puncher. So I master the jab. I try to throw the jab with the most efficiency ever and use that as the basis for everything else I do. And most people will say that in boxing, but not a lot of people do it, right? They abandon it. They'll use a lot of hooks instead, or they use a lot of straight punches, and they'll be a little sloppy, but they don't really rely on the jab, right? I think mastery comes from doing something and doing it for so long and trying it so many different ways and putting yourself in positions to be familiar with, that you become so great at it. And to me, that is the epitome of a black belt mentality. So that's what you should strive for, I think, my opinion, to be a black belt. So, yep, that's what I want to talk about, guys. Just want to rant on the black belt, all right? So, done.